Welcome back to the To Be Better podcast. Before we get into the intro, we have a little bit of a disclaimer that we need you to hear.
We are not the experts of your life. You are.
We believe that most relationships can be saved. However, both parties have to want it, and both parties have to be willing to do the work.
So we speak in generalizations. If it applies to 90% of the population, and you're part of the 10% that it doesn't, it can be adapted to fit the narrative you're going with.
And it's up to you to make that adaptation. It's not up to us to cater to every single living being on the planet. We just want to get the information out there, and you can make it applicable to your life as you see fit.
So whether you decide to stay or decide to leave, you still have to make the changes that are necessary to grow. If
you fail to do the work, you're going to fail in your next relationship. So why not do the work now before quitting?
All right, so in emailing us, you are asking us for our unbiased, unfiltered opinions. If you're not ready to hear our opinions, do not email us.
And there are certain topics that we will not discuss on this podcast, such as domestic violence, SA, or other assaults and addiction.
Or children being abused.
Speaking of the emails, if you guys are going to send us an email, please be as detailed as possible. Take a second to proofread what you have sent and make sure that you have punctuation, because if you have one long paragraph that is a run-on sentence and it is a difficult thing for us to read, we're not going to sit down and retype your email just for us to be able to read it on the podcast. It will get moved into a rejected folder and we will never see it. And last but not least, if you're not interested in having your email read on our podcast, do not submit an email. We do not do direct emailing answers. It is a scratch our back. We scratch yours. You send email for our content. We give you the opinions that you're asking for. And if you would like to have your email submitted, you can send it to tobebetterco@gmail.com. The number 2, bebetterco@gmail.com. And we are back.
We're back.
Episode 10 of the side piece.
10.
We have a new look, new feel, new room, new everything.
Yeah.
I don't know how this is going to play out. I don't know how we sound. I don't have anything in reach to adjust things as we go. There's nobody behind the camera or the mixer over there. We're really just winging it and hoping for the best. So, do we want to do a little bit of life update and talk about our lives a little bit, or do we want to just jump into this?
We can do a little life update.
Okay. Do you have anything you want to talk about on a life update?
I'm getting back into knitting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm enjoying that. The first little square that I did is not bad. I mean, the cast on is a little rough, but...
I don't know what that is.
Like the initial putting it on, the knitting needle. I almost said stick. I didn't want people coming at me. It's a knitting needle.
Well, the people that saw that TikTok that we were...
reacting to?
Yeah, the one that we duetted, somebody had tagged us in. They were like, "Oh my God, she knits. I want to get into knitting." Da 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 da. Like they were super into that. So, do you think you said you're gonna make your own cardigan?
I am. I'm gonna knit myself a cardigan.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to get the hang of all the different neat stitches to do because there's like a bamboo one that I really like, but I'm not good enough yet.
Yeah, well, it just takes practice.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing now. I'm gonna knit a little square every day with a different stitch on it.
We are a couple of days out from going over to my mentor's house for you to get your plants.
I am so excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Friday night, we're going to go see Sister Act the musical.
Also very excited.
Yeah. The guy that makes our shirts, Jordan, is a trumpet player, and he plays in the pit. So...
I love that.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. It's kind of cool because he listens to the podcast, and he's like, "Yo, would you like tickets?" I'm like, "Yes."
Hell
Date
yeah.
night for free? Yes.
I'm so excited about this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. We walked a little bit this morning. We did our cardio, and
Saw a deer.
yeah, saw a car accident on the way back too.
I was more excited about the deer.
Yeah, so was I. We are finally getting to a point with the podcast where we're getting our life back a little bit. I didn't realize how much this was going to consume us, right?
Me either.
Because when we started, it was just a hobby. Like we were going to record when we wanted to. There was no schedule.
We did it once a week for like 4 hours.
Yeah. And now it's a everyday thing because we're trying to get backlogged. Excuse me. We're trying to get backlogged. And once we get backlogged, we don't have to do it every day again. We can do 3 days a week to record and just keep on top of it unless we take a vacation or we miss some episodes and then we have to backlog again.
Right.
But when you look at it like 3 hours a day, 5 days a week is nothing. The problem is it wasn't just the 3 days or the 3 hours. It was also edit time, prep time, and all the behind the scenes stuff that went into it. Now that AJ's taken over some of the editing, it's making my life a little easier. I am very much looking forward to having our adventures.
Yeah.
Go out and take pictures and be able to just do something other than sit at the house.
That's why I want to work ahead with the book breakdowns and stuff too.
Yeah, where are you at on that?
So I have completely finished the intro to the love language for tomorrow night. Tomorrow I'm going to start working on the love language, the apology language. I have the intro to the apology language is done for tomorrow night. And tomorrow I'm going to start working on the first apology language for next Thursday. And my goal is to get 2 weeks ahead on that. So by the end of this week, I want to have the second one done. And for the book breakdown, we're currently doing Never Split the Difference. And I am almost through the first chapter with my notes. So I want to get that done hopefully today before I have to pick up the kids. If not, after they go to bed. And then I want to start the first chapter on Friday.
I'm looking forward to the apology languages. I know that this will come out after the intro because I think that we're 2 weeks ahead on side pieces. So by the time this comes out, the first episode should be done. So you guys can go back and watch that on YouTube if you want to. There should be a playlist for it because for some reason when you make a live recording, it doesn't just go into your videos. It's under a separate tab that says live streams. They don't put them where you want them unless you add them to a playlist. It's really weird the way that they do that shit.
I'm so glad I don't have to handle that.
Yeah, it's just a learning curve. We've almost got the reaction channel to 4,000 hours, which will be nice because we've got the desk set up to actually do reactions. I just got to hang a curtain over that door.
Yeah.
I really like this room.
Me too.
Guys, give us a comment or a thumbs up on the atmosphere, the ambience of the room.
I like that little light back there.
It's pretty clever, right?
Yeah.
It's literally standing up by a plastic clamp.
That's smart.
Yeah, it was the light that I bought to hang off the ceiling.
Yeah.
But I figured a little ground glow would separate us from the walls, when we used to do these things, we used to sit down and just bullshit.
Yeah.
And now we find ourselves bullshitting about life outside of this and then sitting down and getting directly to the point, and it's reduced our actual record time. So I want to start having those conversations again on camera where we talk about TikTok or YouTube or things that we've seen or movies or, stupid comments that people have left or whatever.
Right. It's hard to get back into that mindset because for so long it was, we have to get through emails. We have to get through emails. We're backed up. We have to get through emails.
Right. And now we're not.
And now it's like changing that mindset because I don't have a life anymore.
Well, we were backlogged on emails. And then when we started cherry picking emails, we realized we're not as backlogged as we thought because a lot of those emails were stuff that we could send to videos we've already recorded. So we're not, we're just not recording everything that comes through the box anymore. Now we are picking,
Right.
and it's making it better. We're actually more backlogged on Patreon currently than we are on regular emails, but that's because we haven't gone through and checked the Patreon to cherry pick them because some of those emails aren't going to get read. I just haven't had the time to sit down yet. I know that you haven't either. So, but that needs to happen. I got, I made there's a TikTok that I did that's got 3.8 million views or something like that. And it's where I'm wearing my Gunby t-shirt and it was a borderline talk. And I started apologizing to you and we were talking about my triggers and we worked through, there was like real life conflict resolution in the moment.
Yeah.
I was apologetic. You got emotional like normal. Like we had our normal thing and it's obviously doing well. There's 3 million views on it.
Right.
I happened to open my TikTok today just to see what's going on. Did you hear that?
I did hear that.
That was weird. Just to see what was going on. And somebody had left a comment on there and I screenshotted it because I wanted to talk to you about it. Figured this would be a good way to get into these conversations. The comment that was the original comment has 17,500 likes on it as of 8:00 this morning. And it said, damn, not just apologizing, but admitting his shortcomings to her and sharing it with us. I love their love.
Yep.
The comment that I saw said, red flag, then tries to gaslight her every time as if she's the cause or the trigger, kind of blames her, repeats until she takes part of the blame, if not all. And then somebody else was like, he literally took full ownership. He said it was him, a him problem, and that he needed to fix it. are you dull? And like, dude was defending us to the person who said that. That comment thread has almost 40 comments on it as of right now. But for somebody to watch that and say that it's gaslighting, me explaining my emotional processes made me realize that men are not allowed to explain themselves anymore. The moment that we start mansplaining or giving our opinion on something in a middle of a
gaslighting
or in the middle of a conflict, it becomes gaslighting because we're supposed to just shut the fuck up and let you guys go what you're going to go with. And we don't get to bring our side of the story into things anymore, or it's considered gaslighting. And that's the way that was worded. That's how they use the term. So I Googled gaslighting because I don't use terms like that. I don't speak with buzzwords.
Right.
So that's not something that people in my social circle use because we're adults. We talk like normal adults. We call people manipulators or liars or whatever. Examples of gaslighting in relationships are that never happened. You're crazy and other people think so too. I'm sorry you think that I hurt you. Do you really think I'd make that up? You're just trying to confuse me. You know, I never intentionally hurt you. I did that because I love you. Most of those are just manipulative behavior.
Right.
None of that was stated in my video. No. Nothing was even close to that. What people are starting to use as the term gaslighting is basically anytime a man starts to explain to his woman his point of view, he's now gaslighting her because he's not just saying you're right and then bowing down.
Right.
That's not okay.
That's not a conversation. That is, I don't know, it gives me a vibe of ownership.
Right.
Like you just need to apologize. I don't care what your version of it is. I don't care what your perspective was. I don't care what your feelings are in it. You need to validate me and just apologize.
Right. How is that going to ever allow anyone growth? You're not going to ever improve your situation in any way, shape, or form if you do not have a back and forth dialogue with your partner to understand the way they perceive the world. Because the way you see the world and the way I see the world are not the same.
Nope.
I think it's me hitting this thing. So I wanted to talk about gaslighting. I'm sure that you may have made me more familiar with that term than I am because you're younger than me, but like the idea of not being able to have a conversation with somebody when they're going through it is a big problem for me.
Right. I mean, I agree. Gaslighting is just manipulation in my eyes.
Right.
We don't need a term that blankets any type of conversation where two people are trying to say, okay, I understand your perspective. This is how I perceived it.
Right.
This is what I felt when it happened. That's not gaslighting. That's not invalidating. That's I hear you. I would like you to hear me too. Because there are two people in this equation, two feelings that need to be accounted for. It's not just all about you. That's narcissistic if you think it is.
Right. Do you really believe that the way we have adapted these buzzwords is beneficial to culture as a whole or to society as a whole? Because when you have a blanket statement that does not have a defined meaning that is well known.
Oh, you mean like what a woman is now?
Damn. They're not ready for that. Are you trying to get us kicked off YouTube?
No. Okay, continue your conversation.
Ooh. Spicy woman.
Tell me I'm wrong, though.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry.
Lost it.
You said a blanket statement that doesn't really have a clear definition.
Right, because it's a new term. It's not something we're taught in school. It's not something that has had its roots long enough to be a well understood conversation piece. So when people say something like that, your definition of it and my definition of it aren't the same. And neither one of them are probably correct because it's a made up fucking term to have a conversation about something that already has a name for it. Manipulation, controlling, things that are simple, understood, taught in school. We know these defined words.
Right.
And I think that these things are made up to remove the ability for people to properly communicate, to create more divisive scenarios, because you're not able to just have a conversation anymore. That's why we have to tell people all the time, can you define that? I need you to I don't understand what you're telling me.
Yeah.
And it happens in conversations, but it also happens in arguments between two people who have a different dialect. And I use the term dialect there specifically because the way I talk versus, some of my friends is very different. I'm very direct and I don't use buzzwords and they're a fucking Facebook meme with the way they talk sometimes.
2 points. First one is when we first started dating, one of the things you told me that you were attracted to was the fact that if I don't understand something, I ask you to clarify.
Right, because there's no miscommunication in that aspect.
Right.
In the event that I misuse a term, travesty and tragedy, remember that day?
Yeah.
Okay, I do that shit. I have a 7th grade education. Sometimes I'm not going to have the right words to articulate myself. And if you're like, wait a minute, it doesn't make sense, I need you to explain it, it gives me the opportunity to get my point across without you being like, dumbass, that's not what you meant. Like, that's not what you're trying to say. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, we have a polite conversation. I don't know.
And going back to gaslighting being a blanket term, I do agree with you. I think that does take away the ability to communicate. Instead of saying you're gaslighting me, saying, hang on, you're twisting my words a little bit. Let me reiterate so we can both be on the same page. That's where, if you were to say that and then you have that back and forth of, let me say it this way, they repeat it back. No, I mean, you're kind of getting there, but that's not what I mean. Just saying you're gaslighting me. I'm not gaslighting you. Now there's a whole new argument because you're accusing them of doing something instead of just saying, hey, we need to work through this one aspect of it.
Do you think that when you have those conversations with people and you have that back and forth, like, what do you mean by that? And then they explain it. And if you still don't understand it and you ask again, and then they explain it in a different scenario, and then you get it, is that a manipulative tactic because you are changing the way that you're articulating yourself to get your point across? People could see that as you changing your story or changing your point. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that's an argument.
So changing your story is, hey, babe, I'm going out with the boys. I'll be back at 10:30. Midnight rolls around. I've texted all your boys. Where the fuck are you? Oh, well, I met up with my brother instead. I just never send on the text message. You're changing your fucking story.
Right.
No, I don't think that is a form of manipulation. That is, I have my perspective. That gives me very much main character syndrome vibes.
For people that feel that way?
That feel like it's manipulation, because it's not. That is what communication is. It's hearing somebody else's perspective and saying, okay, I can understand that. I still feel the way that I feel, but knowing that that's your perception of what happened, that's what you were feeling in that moment, it eases my hurt a little bit less, like it lessens it, because I can understand what you were going through. For example, say we're out and about and something frustrates you. I'm on the other side of the store. I come over and you snap at me real quick. I'm like, okay, damn. And instead of just jumping on my high horse, be like, okay, well, fuck you. I'd be like, okay, babe, what's going on? Like, you just snapped at me a little bit. That kind of took me aback. Like,
what's happened?
Right. And then you explain it to me. I'd be like, okay, I'm not as hurt as I was because I can understand that the salesperson was being a dick to you and you're getting the rigmarole, whatever's going on. I would get frustrated too.
Right.
If you were to acknowledge that and be like, babe, I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. I'll keep that in check going forward in the future. That's just healthy conversation in my mind.
Right. So then what is actually gaslighting by those definitions? Like, in the event that I snapped at you and you could tell I was obviously frustrated. See, this is a very gray area for me. If I snapped at you and didn't realize I snapped at you because I was frustrated and I was just talking to you the way that I talk, but because I'm frustrated, my tone comes across and it's not at you, but you catch the brunt of it. And then you get upset and you're like, you talk to me like blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I didn't. I was frustrated. There's a difference there because I'm talking to you, but it's not directed at you. Does that make sense? So in that scenario, that's not gaslighting. That's explaining the situation. Like, I'm fucking mad as shit right now, and you just happen to catch my tone in the moment. Is it right? No. But is that gaslighting? To explain that situation? Like, I didn't talk to you that way. And then explain the scenario. Like, the sales rep at the store pissed me the fuck off. You walked around the corner and said something, and you caught that anger. It wasn't aimed at you, but you heard it. You know what I mean? Like,
right. So saying that it wasn't aimed at you, but you heard it, I can understand that. You know, you're in your own little world in your mind and you're pissed off and you're frustrated and you're thinking of all these things that you want to say to this guy when he comes back. And I come over and I just kind of like peek in through the clouds and be like, hey, what's up? And you're still in that storm. I could get that.
Right.
I think where people would throw in, well, that's gaslighting, is when you would say, I didn't speak to you like that, because you did. Right.
But in the moment, you don't realize that. And here's a perfect example. Do you remember the day that I had the meltdown over the video?
What video?
We did a recording. We recorded an episode. And in my head, we were in major conflict.
Yes, I do remember that.
Okay. I had the realization afterwards while editing that everything I thought happened in the moment didn't happen. So knowing that my perception of the situation wasn't real. It was on video. Can't deny it. It's fucking recorded. And what I saw in my head versus what actually happened are two very different things. I had a full meltdown, cried about it the whole nine. Apologized. You apologized. Like we had a fucking bonding moment because I was a mess. That can be a borderline thing. So in that scenario where I view a situation where we're having a disruption in our life and I feel you did something and you're like, I didn't do that. And I'm like, yes, you fucking did. Is that gaslighting or is that me misreading the situation? And where does that lie? Because that's a very real thing for a lot of fucking people out there.
Right. So in that situation, no, I don't think that's gaslighting. I think that has to be a discussion of, I'm realizing now with me possibly also having BPD, I could be misperceiving situations. So it's really just sitting down and talking about, like, okay, this is what you heard, this is what you saw, this is what I heard and what I saw.
Right.
We both could be making up both of this shit, but that's how we feel. And just to have that validated and be like, okay, going forward, what do we need to do to avoid this? I don't think that's gaslighting at all.
Okay. So then here's another thought.
Yeah.
Men hear logic points. Women hear emotional thoughts.
Correct.
Right? So I could say something to you with an attitude and be frustrated. There's a fucking nail in my tire. Right? But because of the way I talk to you, you're going to get offended. Right? And you can get in your feelings about it because I got super shitty talking to you about the nail in the tire. Very, very poor example.
Yeah, I was about to say, be like, fuck that nail. Like.
Right. It was a very poor example. I admit, guys, that was a very, very bad example. I can't think of one off the top of my head that gets my point across, but we know that women are emotional mind thinkers. And the perfect example of that, in the way of the superior man, David Data says that women don't lie. They emotionally think, and they base their truth off of emotion. So, in the way he explains it...
Hang on, pause. Okay. Women don't lie.
They emotionally think.
They emotionally think, and they base what?
They base their truth off of their emotions.
Their truth off of their emotions?
Yep.
How fucking delusional.
Okay. I'm glad that you said that. However,
okay,
if you were having a bad day and we were not connected, right? Like we were kind of at odds and I was like, you want to go to the movies? And you were like, no, because you don't really want to be around me in the moment.
Right.
That's your truth, right? Now, because we're not connected.
Right. But,
hold on.
Okay.
Now, let's say we were at odds and I grabbed you.
Right. Oh, okay.
And I like waist you tight to me, looked you in the eye, kissed you hard, passionately, and gained that little bit of love and got you back in your feelings and was like, want to go to the movies? Regardless of how you were feeling before I grabbed you, your emotional feelings toward me has changed, and that's your truth. That's the way he explained it. And it makes sense to me because you guys make emotional mind decisions and we don't. Well, most men don't. Most men are just logic brain fixers. Some of us are a fucking mess, but does that make sense? Do I need to go get the book?
I think even if you got the book, that doesn't make sense to me.
Okay. Why not?
I could understand that if that was how, with how our relationship is, I can see that. Because we have the intimacy and we are always touching each other and kissing and having those little moments.
Right.
So if we were in a spat and you pulled that, I can see how that would be that change. If they've been together for 10 years and they haven't had intimacy for the last 8 years and all of a sudden he does that, she's going to be like, are you fucking kidding me?
Right. So you're adding scenarios that aren't really relevant to the conversation there.
Okay.
Okay. So let's say that they are 10 years married and they have been not intimate for the last 2. Do you think that would pull her truth against her man away if he started doing things like that? Because she views him a certain way and believes he's that man. So her truth is that her man is an unemotional, unintimate being. And if he started grabbing her and pulling her close and kissing her and doing those things, her truth of her man would change based off of her emotional mindset towards him. because now she loves him again and he's showing her his soft side and being vulnerable and being intimate.
Okay.
Does that make sense? This could be just my interpretation of the book.
And I can see that, yes, how the intimacy being brought back like that could change her truth.
Right.
If there's underlining issues like he doesn't validate her, that might mean nothing. Her truth is that he doesn't care about my feelings. He just wants to touch my body.
That sucks for them in that scenario.
Right. I'm not trying to poke holes. I just don't understand that.
I don't understand it either because I don't think like a woman does. I think that I could tell you very directly what I want and what I need in life, and you should be able to understand that. Mm-hmm. But when you come at me with an emotional mindset and you're going from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing because you're in your feelings and I can't fucking keep up with it, you're an emotional mindset, emotional wreck, and I'm not because my brain doesn't work that way.
So is this like the women who are like, I'm living my truth, and they're out every Friday and Saturday night drunk and somebody's watching their baby at home?
No, that's called shitty parenting.
But that's them, I'm living my truth, because they're getting that emotional high of whatever they're doing. And because their emotions are elevated due to the drinking or the partying or the promiscuity, whatever they're doing, that's their truth. You're
really going to make me go get that book so that I can find that passage, right?
I mean, does that make sense?
I didn't write the book, babe. I just read it. I do believe, regardless of the bad metaphors and analogies and the descriptions, that you guys do live in your emotional mindsets. You are emotional, nurturing creatures. We are logic, brain thinking fixers. That's just the way things are.
Right. I just don't understand how emotions correlate to truth.
It doesn't, because the truth is the truth. But what you believe versus what is true or not are two different things. Because your emotions will dictate the things that you believe in, where we're not that way. Be right back. I'm going to go get the book because now I feel like a fucking... All right, let's see if we can not get flagged for plagiarism. He says, her feminine speech is far more like poetry than like a clear-cut agenda for action. In an emotional moment, what she says she is going to do is actually an expression of what she feels like doing. So I misspoke on that.
Okay, pause. So in that moment, what she is saying is what she feels like doing.
Is an expression of what she feels like doing.
Okay, so she was like...
Okay. Her feelings and therefore what she is actually going to do could change in 5 minutes. It could change every 5 minutes. Whenever you are surprised by your woman's actions and you say to her, but you said... You are forgetting that she has a feminine essence. What your woman says is like a cloud passing in the sky. Well-formed, coherent, and unrecognizable moments later, the cloud is an expression of the precise physics of water, wind, and air. Your woman's words are expressions of physics of her feelings, your relationship, and the nuances of the present situation, seen and unseen. A moment later, these factors will change, and so will your woman's expressions. And this is where the movie quote came in.
Okay.
You might ask her, do you want to go to the movies? She'll reply, not really. Then you hug her, spin her around, and say, let's go to the movies. And she says, okay. She is not talking about her desire to go to the movies. She is talking about the feelings of your relationship in the present moment. If after she said she didn't want to go to the movies, you said fine and sat down and watched TV, you would be missing the point. She's not really saying she doesn't want to go to the movies, even though that is what she's saying.
What?
Yeah. That's how we view you guys.
Do you feel that way about me?
No, because you're very direct with me.
Okay.
We have very good communication.
Yeah,
but I can tell you from a man's standpoint, that's how we believe you guys are, because when
emotional fucking wrecks.
Yeah, because when we're like, hey, Tim called and they're gonna go play paintball tomorrow. Do you mind if I go? And you're like, yeah, just go. No, don't go. That's a fucking trap.
Oh my God.
Don't do that. Like, we fucking know better. We can tell by your body language whether or not that's a don't fucking go or yeah, it's okay to go.
Right.
And we shouldn't have to have those conversations. When we have conversations like, hey, I want to go do this, and you're like, well, what about this? It gives me a moment to pause and think about how I can make the situation work for both of us. Mm-hmm. And if you go, yeah, fine, whatever, and then I come home and you're angry, okay, this ties into that death grieving and jealousy email we
Yes.
got. Yeah, I'll go. And then the day for you to go comes, yeah, I'm not going to go. And then I get mad and act up. And then when you come home, I don't want to talk to you. Because that's what happened in that email. He was in his feminine
Yeah.
in that scenario.
Hardcore. A lot of
Yeah.
estrogen.
Yeah. None of this may make sense to any of you guys.
No, it makes sense to me.
Okay. That's all that matters because I am talking to you. They're just getting a benefit of the recording of my nonsense.
I'm so glad I'm here to save you from all of that.
Yeah, I'm glad I don't have to worry about that shit because we are very direct. Our communication is with purpose. And you know, because we've had enough conversations about the way my brain works, that you talk to me in the masculine. And I try to understand you in my feminine. Doesn't always work. Sometimes I'm like, wait a minute, I don't understand. Do you need me to listen? Are you just venting or do you want me to fix this?
Yeah.
Because otherwise I'm going to try to fix it because in my masculine, that's I'm a fixer. I don't remember why we got on this entire topic.
I don't remember either.
For those of you who would like to read that book, it's The Way of the Superior Man by David Data. It's actually a really good book. There's a lot of really good information in there. It's on our Amazon affiliate links in the description of the video.
We're talking about gaslighting.
And explaining your feelings, maybe? I don't know. I don't remember why that even came up. It's not really even relevant at this point. We just killed 20 minutes of nonsense. So, I mean, at least the video will be longer than normal.
Right. You want to get into the next point? Do you have anything else on gaslighting?
I don't because I don't understand it.
I feel gaslighting is a term that was created by weak-minded people to, that whole, I'm going to hurt you before you hurt me. I don't know, weak-minded, not able to handle adult conversations, can't handle constructive criticism, and it's due to trauma that they haven't worked past.
Right. So off the list then, that never happened. That's gaslighting.
Right.
I saw that situation while we were recording as something that was obviously not that situation. So if I was like, you did blah, 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 and you were like, that never happened, that's considered gaslighting. Even though I know after the fact, because it was fucking recorded, that it didn't happen the way that my brain perceived that situation.
Right.
You made me feel a certain way, or I made me feel a certain way, or my BPD made me feel a certain way, or I just misunderstood something and I was all up in arms. And that wasn't the fucking case at all. So much so that after I edited the video, I apologized and fucking cried like a baby. Like I was a mess. That's not gaslighting. If it happens every time something happens, maybe you've got somebody with a mental illness. Maybe you have a mental illness. Like
Maybe you're just with a really shitty human being who doesn't care about your feelings.
Right.
But call it for what it is. It's manipulation.
It can be, but in that scenario, it wouldn't have been.
If you're with a shitty human being, it is.
Right. So where does that line land, though? Because in that scenario, had you told me that's not what happened, and I argued that it did, and there was no way to video to prove it because maybe we weren't recording in the moment, we could have had major odds or a major disruption over that because I felt you did something that you clearly didn't do, and you defending yourself would have been, I could have been like, you're gaslighting me. How would that have served our communication in that moment when it takes away your ability to explain your perception of what happened? I think that when you use the term gaslighting, you're putting yourself in a position to be the all-knowing. Your world is perceived the same as mine, and that's not how it works. We see things differently. Men and women see things differently. Every individual person on the planet perceives their world differently than someone else. And if you forget that, you know what I mean? Like that can create a lot of problems in your life. Here's another one. You're crazy and other people think so too. I heard that a lot.
From like just shitty people?
I don't want to get into that.
Okay.
But I have heard that a lot in life. And it was one of those things that was used in a scenario where there were people around, and every time an argument came up, other people were dragged into the argument. And when things calmed down and it got brought up later in conversation, those people were like, I never fucking said anything like that. Now, does that mean that those people just don't have the courage to tell me that? Because people are cowards. We know that. Or was I actually being gaslit? There's no way of knowing that. Like, there's no verifiable data there unless somebody else heard it and be like, bullshit, the fuck you didn't. I heard you say that. That's a different thing. You know what I mean? I'm sorry you think that I hurt you. That sentence I can understand being a manipulation thing.
Yeah.
Because though we understand you can't make somebody feel something. It's a decision. They choose to feel hurt. Saying that in the moment is insincere. I don't know. I don't like the way that's worded. I'm sorry that you think I hurt you. Wouldn't it just be easier to be like, I'm sorry that my actions affected you the way they did?
Right.
Because at least in that scenario, you're taking accountability for it, and you can start working on not phrasing things that way or whatever. You can actually start making change because you're owning the fact that you fucked that up. Saying to somebody like, I'm sorry you feel that way, even saying that is not an apology because you're not sorry for what you did. You're sorry that I feel that way. This is no different than somebody doing something wrong and getting caught. You're not sorry for your actions. You're sorry that I caught your ass. So if you say to somebody, I'm sorry you feel that way, unless it's something that like, they hate their boss. Sorry you feel that way. Like that has nothing to do with me. It sucks. Sorry your boss is an asshole. Like, but if you said something and like you said that, if you said something that I did or the way that I worded certain phrases really upset you, and I didn't say, I'll work on it. I'm sorry that you feel that way. It's basically me saying I don't give a shit because that's a you problem. That's how I take that.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay. Next one says, do you really think I'd make that up? This falls into the first scenario where I saw something in a moment of conflict with you, and when I played it back later, it wasn't the fucking case. So you not having the ability to defend yourself in those moments and me saying something along the lines of, why would I make that up? You fucking treated me like shit. You said da-da-da-da-da. And you're like, it never really fucking happened. In that scenario, I know after the fact that it fucking didn't. But you saying that, they consider that gaslighting. If somebody has, this really comes down to the amount of people that have some sort of illness. It's very, very common. Like 1 in 36 people being born currently have autism. Borderline is fucking through the roof. Bipolar disorder. All of these things can misinterpret your perception of the world. Depression by itself can misinterpret the world. Can you remember to tell me about depression when we're done with this topic? Because I have something, a crazy thought I want to talk about. Okay. The next one was, you're just trying to confuse me. Couldn't that just simply be that you guys are not arguing the same point?
You're on 2 different pages.
Right. Especially if it's a man and a woman talking. Prime example, you'll get 10 points ahead of me and I'm still trying to figure out why the fuck we're arguing. Like, we are simple, direct creatures. So in that scenario where I am still stuck on 1 and you're on 0.7, and I'm like, what are we even fucking talking about? And I'm getting angry and frustrated because I can't fucking keep up with the conversation. And I'm like, you're just trying to confuse me. Are you really? Or are you just further along in the conversation than I am because I'm stuck on a point that we haven't worked through yet?
Right.
Communication matters. Like, if that's gaslighting, you're failing to communicate. I never intentionally hurt you. That's abuser shit, right? Like if somebody fucking punches you in the face or calls you names and belittles you out of anger or intoxication,
and then they hit you with that,
that's a manipulative abuser tactic. Like that statement alone shouldn't even be on this list. That's a whole nother fucking argument. And then the last one was, I did that because I love you. That also falls under the abusive tactics, like the abuser, addictive, like bullshit. That's not all. There's a list of 16 things, but it says gaslighting example 16 things abusers will say. I don't know. I'm not going to keep going because there's other ones like 28 phrases to look out for. But when it comes down to it, if you have proper communication skills and you're able to talk to your person, where's the disconnect between gaslighting and having a conversation?
What do you mean the disconnect between them? Because
at some point, if we are having a conversation and you're like, you're gaslighting me, or let's say you were with somebody for 10 years and you guys had poor communication, and when you broke up, you told everyone he gaslit you the entire time.
I think if you are somebody in a relationship and you use the term gaslit with your significant other, you don't really know what you're talking about.
Right.
You're just feeling unheard and that they're not validating you. You can't pinpoint what the problem is, so you're just using gaslit as a blanket statement. And it shows that you don't know how to communicate.
Okay.
So the breakdown is no one knows how to communicate.
Right. I think that in some there's got to be like extremes like narcissism. Like if you're an extreme narcissist and you're clinically diagnosed as an extreme narcissist and like somebody was in a relationship with you and they say who's a narcissist and they know that it was diagnosed, that's a different conversation than saying that somebody was selfish and it was all about them and then calling them a narcissist because of it.
Right.
Because you're just trying to create a negative connotation to the person that you're no longer with to make you look like not the bad guy.
That's feeding into the victim mentality.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Do you have anything on gaslighting? Because I'm over this conversation.
No, I don't.
I really hate these buzzwords, and having these conversations I think are going to help me moving forward when people use those terms. But because I now have this view of it,
Yeah.
until somebody changes this view, hearing people say that shit's just going to frustrate me.
Yeah. I think using terms like gaslit and narcissism or narcissist outside of the diagnosed clinical of it, whatever, that is avoiding resolution. You're not looking to resolve what's happening. You're just looking to fight. You're feeding off of it.
Throwing blame.
Right. I could never imagine having a conversation with you where you just say you're gaslighting me instead of saying you're invalidating my emotions right now and you're making it about you a little bit. You're telling me what the problem is, that I'm invalidating you, and you're telling me that I'm putting the focus on my emotions when that should never be the case.
Okay. So in that, because we've had this conversation too, when an argument starts, right? Because one person feels slighted. Once the argument starts, the other person always brings in things that they've been holding on to. Sometimes it could be just, I'm going to hold on to this until we have a fight so that I can get it out while we're fighting and we don't have to have an argument. Or it's been festering and now there's a reason to bring it up because we're in the heated of discussion. At what point do you think it's okay to just have it all out while you're in the middle of a conflict versus allowing the other person to get their shit out, calming down, and then being like, hey, since we're kind of going through it, there are a couple of things that I would like to address, and then address those things? Because I got to be honest, the letting things fester and not addressing them in the moment is what causes that. So we know that's the root. Because if you said something and it offended me or it hurt my feelings or I thought you were coming at me sideways, like, what the fuck was that? Like, I don't deserve that. Why would you say that to me? Like, or whatever. We would have that conversation immediately. And as soon as the conversation was done, I'm moving the fuck on. I'm not going to hold that in because I don't want to fight with you. And if I hold it in, the other things that you're doing is going to compile that. And it's going to be like digging a splinter further into the bottom of my foot. You know what I mean? So where does that happen? Because if you're angry and you need to get these things off your chest while you're fighting, is that because that means that you're not validating your person, because now you're bringing your argument and your grievances on top of their grievances. You're not going to, neither one of you are going to be validated.
Right. It needs to be one thing and then move on to the next once it's resolved. If you came to me and you were like, I don't like the way the shoes look at the front door. When you take your shoes off, can you make sure that you organize them? Then I hit you with, well, yeah, can you stop leaving dishes in the sink?
Right.
That's just arguing to argue at that point.
Right.
So it'd be like, yeah, babe, I got you. You know, I recognize that. I keep trying to make a mental note and I keep forgetting to do it. Since we're talking about things we're forgetting to do, I notice you just leave kind of food on the dishes in the sink. Would you mind just?
Yeah. I think that for us, because that doesn't happen often.
Right.
It really doesn't. And I'm not trying to like
oh no, that was
talk
just an
ourselves
example.
up. No, I know that. But like
Okay.
I think maybe twice in our entire relationship, we've had conflict, that other conflict has been brought into it, but it was relevant to the conversation, not either one of us throwing the pass in our face.
Right.
Does that make sense? Okay. I want to make a concerted effort in the event that one of us are feeling something in that moment to not compile. I would rather wait until later on that evening to have something brought back up, or that's 2 patrons in less than 5 minutes. I was waiting until we were done to plug Patreon because we just got one, but that's the second one.
Okay.
I don't want to have the conflict compounded. So in the event that you come to me with something, even if I'm holding something in, I'm not going to unload it. I'll swallow that down until the next day and be like, hey, yesterday while we were arguing, I noticed I was getting kind of frustrated and I want to bring this up, but I didn't want to bring it up in the moment because I was angry. Now that I'm calm, and we can have a discussion about things, because I feel like, and this is just me assuming things, I assume that when you bring something to me, you're looking for resolution or to be heard. And if I'm throwing conflict back at you, well, you always do.
It'll overwhelm me.
You're never going to feel like you're being heard. We're just going to fight. And if that happens, and you bring your point back up, and I've already moved past that point because I heard you and addressed you, we're now arguing about something that I've already felt has been addressed or you have already felt has been addressed. And now there's redundant back and forth that's just repetition to hear ourselves speak because neither one of us are feeling validated. We've talked about that a lot. So the whole point of that was I want to make sure that we are both making a concerted effort when things get brought up, if we're holding grudges, which we don't really do, that we make an effort not to do that to each other. Because I don't want to find myself in a position where I'm trying to understand you, but then trying to throw my shit at you on top of it, or not fully understanding what you're saying to me, or the other way around, because we're looking to resolve all conflict of past grudges. And I think the reason that I'm even bringing this up is in the rare chance that something happens and we just kind of let it go, because there are things that may frustrate me that I'm never going to say anything about because it's so minor that it's not a big deal. And I know you do the same thing. The soda cans was one of them. You know what I mean? Like there's certain things that just aren't worth arguing about. And it's not that big of a fucking deal in the grand scheme of our lives.
Right.
Do you have anything else you want to talk about with gaslighting?
No.
Okay. That depression thing that I wanted you to remind me about. Have you ever watched American Gods?
No.
Okay. Basically it is a bunch of different gods living in America that are, slowly gaining power.
Okay.
And like one of them is, it's just a really weird show. Just really what it comes down to. Anyways, I had an idea the other night, and this is kind of religious weirdness, I guess. But I was brushing my teeth and I was like, what if? And I had this whole drawn out thought, and I meant to have a conversation with you about it, but it was like midnight and I wasn't trying to have this conversation at midnight. If all of our mental illnesses and depression and all of the things that's wrong with us, even the food that we eat, right? The chemically compound food like products are things that we know affect our gut health, which in turn affects our mental health, right? That's science. That's what we know. It would be cool if somebody wrote a TV show or a book series where all of those things were demonic. So like somebody who battles with suicidal depression, that's them battling their own demons. Because my entire life, every time I've referenced my borderline, I've always said I'm battling my demons right now. I just got to get them to shut the fuck up so that I can go about my life. And I had this whole long drawn out thing. And like, you know, people have created AI art for all of these different imaginary illnesses. Well, not imaginary, but all these different illnesses. What if those things were actually like,
I support those
forces that we can't see, that we have allowed into us somehow and have riddled our fucking lives, because little kids don't experience that.
Right.
It normally stems from trauma or life experiences. And I know that because when you're 3, 4, 5 years old, you're just happy. You know what I mean? Unless you get in trouble, and then it sucks to be in trouble. But like, we're not conflicted with the ways of the world. We haven't been taught these things and been, I don't know.
I was thinking about that today, that when we're born, we're born full of love and kindness and just wanting to bring joy and happiness and make others smile. All of the hatred and the negativity is shit that we're taught.
Yeah. My brain on that whole American Gods depression demon thing was a mixture of Drop Dead Fred and American Gods.
Okay.
So I was really hoping you had seen American Gods because you would have understood that whole reference.
Yeah.
If I had the desire to write a book or a screenplay, I could totally do that.
Hell yeah.
The other thing that I had that was on today's agenda to talk about was
ghosting.
Ghosting. I was like the other G word. I couldn't think of it. You know, that's really, really prevalent in today's like dating culture.
Yeah, people get what they want from someone and then just ditch them.
Why do you think that is? Because, you know, okay, I still want you to answer that.
Okay.
But I want to preface the question. We know that we live in a swipe culture.
Yes.
We are instant gratification for everything. You want Taco Bell, you can have it in minutes delivered to your door. You want to go grocery shopping? You don't really want to go grocery shopping? Someone will deliver that shit too. You can Amazon and have whatever you want delivered to you within 3 days. We live in instant gratification. If you want to have a conversation with somebody, it's no longer wait until they're off of work to check their answering machine to call you back. You send them a text message. You can talk to them right now.
Yep.
Everything is immediate. Swipe culture, hookup culture is prevalent in that because we live a life of excess and right now gratification. So, with that preface, why do you think the ghosting thing happens? Because I have a theory.
One of the things that come to mind is people don't want commitment. They don't want to put in the hard work of having a relationship. They just want to get their one and done and then dip.
Okay. Do you think that ghosting is more prevalent with men than women, or more prevalent with women than men?
Ooh, I could not tell you. The amount, I would say across the people that I know, acquaintances, friends, family, whatever you want to, I would say it's probably pretty split down the middle.
I actually am willing to bet that it's a higher thing for men to ghost women than women to ghost men.
Okay.
And I only say that because, and I could be way wrong. I haven't looked at any of the numbers or statistics. I'm sure that Google will tell you who's more prevalent in ghosting. Are you looking?
I am.
I want to know that. So I'm going to get a drink while you look that up.
Oh, because you said you thought it was men. I was like, no, it's probably women. And women are more than 150% more likely to ghost than men are.
Really? Do you think that has something to do with like the whole body count thing? Because I was way fucking wrong. I had a whole theory on all of this.
So I think it's because women are waiting for the next best thing.
Yeah, because it's all about a level up. I get that. That totally makes fucking sense. I don't know why I didn't think that shit.
Or, I don't know, women are really in that if he doesn't check every single box, I'm going to look elsewhere. She sees one fault in him, be like, okay, well, that's a red flag to me. I'm leaving.
You know that no one's going to ever check all the boxes.
No.
It's very rare that you find someone. And if you find someone who checks all the boxes, they're probably lying to you. They're not being their authentic self. And then you find out later on that they manipulated you and you're wondering why you're married to a piece of shit. Like,
Yeah.
it's because you found somebody that checked all the boxes with these expectations that you had, not realizing that that's rare. Like, that's super fucking rare. My theory on the ghosting from the men's side, men are predatory and like
They want the hunt.
they want the hunt. And I'm so glad that you caught that right away, because I said that word. I'm like, fuck, I really shouldn't have said that, because now all the feminists will be like, yeah, exactly. Right. We want the thrill of the chase. And if we are in our prime and we're chasing something and we get it, once we get it, it's a toy that we already own. We don't want it anymore. It's like a lion. Once it's eaten from a carcass and it's full, it's not carrying the fucking carcass around. It hunted, got what it needed, and has moved on to the next thing. In my mindset, that's the ghosting thing in men. I obviously don't understand that mindset because I'm not that guy, but I understand the hunt aspect of it, because our most intense sexual activity is when there has been a day or two of buildup, because you've teased me, you've made me wait, or life has happened and you've just fucked with me for 2 days because you knew that there wasn't an opportunity for us to do that. That buildup, I am pursuing you still. It makes me feel like a hunter again. And that drives our intimacy, right? So when you have a swipe culture where there is no need to hunt because you can swipe and that's the extent of the hunt, you get the instant gratification. Where is the buildup? And there's no reason to even continue to pursue that because you've already conquered it.
Right.
I don't, 150%, huh?
Yes.
That's a really high number.
It is a very high number. I think men also have a lower self-worth.
Oh yeah.
Self-worth.
Yeah. We're taught to that we're not shit.
Right. So if he lands a girl, he's going to hold on to her, especially if he catches feels.
Right. This is our third patron.
Oh, wow.
I have to plug Patreon now. I was trying to let it go, but for those of you who are new to what we're doing, we have a Patreon that has 4 different tiers on it. One of them is the VIP tier. It gives you exclusive content, live streams once a week that is a Q&A where we sit down in a chat room with you guys on video and just shoot the shit for an hour or two. But most importantly, it has a private Discord server, which is a chat server with over 600 people currently on it.
Are we over 600?
We are over 600. We hit it last night.
Fuck up.
Yep.
Why did nobody tag me?
They posted it. I happened to log into the ball pit when it happened. This server is extensive. We go from everything from faith to relationships to photography to livestock and homesteading and homeschooling. And like, this is a very large community of people who think like Peaches and I do. And it is very beneficial. I highly recommend that you guys check that out. If you want to support the channel, that is the most prevalent way to do so. If you haven't subscribed on YouTube yet, you can. We do have a subscription on there that does get you access to the same Patreon lives. It just doesn't get you access to the Discord. The other best thing that you can do is share this channel. Share the content. If you see something that you agree with, send it to somebody. If you don't agree with it, send it to somebody. Sending and sharing the content and getting people to interact with what we're doing is going to continue to grow what we're doing. We hit 54,000 subscribers last night.
How many?
54,000. We are
Holy
averaging
shit.
10,000 subscribers a month on YouTube when you look at like the 5 months that we've been doing this. I know that that's not accurate, and AJ is 100% going to correct me when he hears this, because we jumped like 30,000 subs in 2 months. But we're fucking doing the thing.
Yeah.
And none of this would be possible if it wasn't for you guys. Those of you who are already in Patreon and Discord, and those who are just listening on the podcast. And if you are just listening on the podcast, you should be on YouTube. There's like
Missing so much.
hours upon hours upon hours of content. And if you've already ran through all the YouTube content and you're not on Patreon, there's more content on Patreon. And Patreon's a little more lax. We talk about a little bit more there. We've given a little bit more of our private lives on Patreon than the rest of the world is going to get, because it's behind a paywall.
Right.
So also hit the notification bell. I hate that I have to do all this. I really don't like that I have to say this. Everybody's familiar with this.
Right.
They know the YouTube routine. So for me to be like, share, subscribe,
Feels gimmicky.
it is gimmicky. They already know. The whole point, though, is just to remind them in case they haven't, because if they were watching it, they kind of like it. Me saying that may be enough to get them to hit the notification bell or hit the thumbs up button. But
Right.
you guys already know how this shit works. So, but you may not have known about the Patreon.
I don't remember what we were talking about.
We were talking about ghosting. I don't remember what in the ghosting thing we were talking about, but so how do we as a culture or a society stop that shit from happening?
Stop being a piece of shit and just say this isn't working for me.
Yeah.
Say you're a dope person. I just don't feel the romantic connection there. You'd be a really dope friend to have, but I don't see it going further than that.
Do you think that that's really what it is, though? Because of the amount of people who are swiping and hooking up. Because, okay, for example, foodie dates.
Foodie date.
This hit the news. You can look this up. This hit the fucking news.
Okay.
There are women who go on a different date every night of the week with a man so they don't have to buy themselves dinner. And it is a growing trend, so much so that it made the nighttime news. It was on television. A news anchor was like, there's this new thing called foodie dates. And it's where women are swiping. Every night of the week, they're getting a new man to go on a date with no intention of doing anything, just going to use him for a meal. Look at the disgust on your face.
I would not be associated with anybody who does that.
Right. And for men like myself who believe in paying for the first date and paying for dates.
You're just going to get taken advantage of.
Right. Which is why a lot of men now are like, there's no fucking way I'm paying on a date. She can pay for her fucking self.
That's disgusting.
Right. So you add that on top of the swipe culture and on top of the hookup culture and the fact that body counts no longer matter and the fact that women want to enjoy their lives into their 30s before they settle down. And by then, all of the good men are already taken. And they find themselves washed up Instagram models with fucking 3 kids from 4 different dads. Not really a possibility, but you know what I mean? And that's not me trying to shit on people. That's the reality of it. You find people who did OnlyFans in their 20s and then hit their 30s and they're like, I really fucking regret doing that because I have kids now and my kids are going to see that shit. Once it's on the internet, you can never get rid of it.
Your kids' friends are going to see that shit.
Right. So, go ahead.
Oh, I'm just really hooked on the foodie date thing.
Yeah.
If I ever found out that our daughter was doing that shit, child, I raised you better than that. You're a poor reflection on me right now.
Yeah. It might not be called a foodie date. It could be something else, but it's foodie
It's
something.
taking advantage of men. That's what
it
that
is. It is. It really is. We talk a lot about courting and dating, and they're not the same thing. Courting and dating is not the same thing. Courting is the lead up to dating. You're getting to know them a little bit. You're trying to ascertain their character. You want to know the type of person they are, what kind of mom they are, if they want kids, if they want marriage, how all that shit works before you start the dating process. So you do the courting thing first. Then you start dating.
You mean you should get to know somebody before you start getting romantically involved with them?
Yeah, especially before you sleep with them. Imagine that. But with ghosting being as prevalent as it is, it's because people aren't waiting. It's because people are just looking for that intimate closeness, and it's a false reality.
Right.
You are basically using each other to serve a need. It is using another person for masturbation. When you think about it, like really that's what it is. You're using them to serve a need. It's not about companionship. It's not about growth. It's not about looking to have a long term with somebody. You are literally just looking to use somebody for your own personal gratification. Now that I know that it's 150% more for women than it is for men, I still stand by what I said about the thrill of the hunt. But now I want to know why it's higher with women than men. Does that mean that men are being that? Is there stats there?
Let me look.
Because I mean, if that's the case, does that mean that men are not doing their duties? Does it mean that they're engaging in hookup culture and not satisfying the woman to the point where she's willing to have a second date? Do we come across too aggressive? Are we not well spoken? Do we talk with our mouth open? Are we rude to the waiters? Like, what are we doing that's turning people off to the point that after a date, they just block you on everything and don't say a word?
So what they're saying is women often find it more difficult to be confrontational than men.
I agree with that.
Not because we're cowards, but because basically society tells us to keep our mouths shut and not to upset anyone.
I disagree with that. I don't disagree with the coward part of it. I disagree with society telling y'all not to say shit. That's bullshit because y'all are the loudest fucking thing on the planet.
Yeah.
I have seen more women start fucking ballroom brawls than men. I've seen women start so much conflict.
So this article is just saying that women are more likely to ghost creepy men because they're fear for their safety.
Creepy men. Okay, but that's so but they're not sleeping with them.
Right.
So like and this is the blanket statement shit. This is live fucking blanket statement shit. I always thought ghosting was after a sexual encounter.
Yeah. Oh no, it could have been like one date.
Right, but that's not ghosting. That's just, is it? Because
So
we going on a date and not being compatible and me creeping you out or you having like crazy anti-politics compared to what I have and like me going, yeah, I don't want nothing to do with that and removing you from my life. I don't owe you anything.
No, ghosting on that situation would be the date went from his perception, everything's going great. She didn't give any inclination that she's uncomfortable or upset or she's not enjoying herself. They have a pleasant exchange after the dinner. He goes to text her maybe an hour later and everything's blocked. And he would never know why. Was it something he said? Was it something he did? Did he not say something? Is it because he didn't kiss her goodbye?
See, knowing that changes my perspective on what ghosting is. That really does come down to cowardice.
Yeah.
Because girl power, right? We're supposed to be looking out for each other. Isn't that how that goes? Women are supposed to like team up and look out for each other. And like, it's supposed to be a unified front in feminism to take care of each other and women, fuck men. If you go on a date with somebody and they are that person to you to the point where you have to block them and they don't know what's happened, the next person they go on a date with is going to get the exact same thing.
Yep.
So where is the accountability in that? Wouldn't it be better to just be like, hey, I appreciate you paying for dinner. I know that you think we had a good time. You said X, Y, and Z, and I'm not okay with that. I don't want to go on a date with you again, and then block them.
Yeah.
Because then it gives them an opportunity to start working on themselves. Because if you don't give somebody constructive criticism to improve, they're going to think that bitch is crazy.
Right.
I'm perfect. Why would she block me? Because that's the mindset that people have. Or they're going to go home and get super fucking depressed all in their feels because they can't find a girlfriend and can't figure out why.
Yeah.
Either way, it's a fucking problem. Don't you think that it would be more beneficial to have the communication to let them know what they need to work on? Hey, you're a really good person up until this point. This is a problem for me. It could be a problem for other women. You should look into that and then block them.
Yep. You don't have to have a back and forth with him either.
Right.
Or her. You can say, I think you're a cool person. This is where a couple of things you just came across a little too much for me. I don't foresee this working out. Good luck. And then block. You're processing a lot.
I am, because my thought process on what ghosting is not this. It's that blatant statement shit.
Like gaslighting.
I'm old, right? So like if you ditch someone after a date, like you go on a date and you're supposed to go to a bar and then you fucking leave them hanging, you ditch them at the bar. I can understand that vernacular because I was a child when people were talking like that. All of this new terminology, because I'm in my 40s, like it doesn't make sense to me. That's my old age, my maturity, if you want to call it that. I want to be direct. I wouldn't call it ditching me now, and I wouldn't say ghosting. I would say what the fuck happened. I went to the bar and she fucking left me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I would be very clear with what's going on because I don't want my words to be misinterpreted. When you're younger, you don't give a shit about that. You don't think about the consequences of your phrasing. I don't know. The idea of going on a date with somebody and then blocking them from everything without explanation is cowardice.
It is.
You can call it non-confrontational all you want to. You're non-confrontational because you're a fucking coward.
You could be contributing to a massive problem too.
Right. You could. You absolutely could. And you can look into it like almost on the same terms of the kids who get bullied in school that grow up a fucking mess because of it. Like, if you don't ever get your problems corrected and you don't have somebody that cares enough about humanity or enough about you as a person to start working on your flaws and tell you what's going on, you're going to grow up with low self-esteem and no self-worth. And if it's men doing it to women and that woman is getting ghosted constantly, what do you think that's going to do to her emotional state? Why do they keep doing this? Men do the same thing. Neckbeards feel the same way. I get that. There are men out there who are going to get ghosted and be like, I don't give a shit because I'm going to go smash somebody else swipe next. You know what I mean? Like, and that's a mindset for some. And it could be for women too. But we know men who are emotionally frail creatures who will really get in their feelings about why they can't find somebody that matches what they want. And it could be that nobody has ever told them that these are what the problems are. These are the things that you need to work on. And it could be on a man-to-man thing as well. Like, if I heard one of my friends saying something incorrect or coming sideways, I'd be like, whoa, bro, think about what you just said. And then, like, that statement could linger with them for weeks while they process and become, maybe they'll never say that again. Or maybe they'll be like, fuck him, and just never hang out with me again. But that phrase and that correction is going to have a lasting statement. It's why so many people come to us and say, you really fucking changed our life with what you've said, because nobody else is telling you the shit that we're saying. Like, we're being very direct. I don't know, man. I don't like the blanket statements, and I really don't like the buzzwords. And I really do think that it's just because of my social circle.
What do you think the percentage is of people ghosting because they're being a coward, or they're ghosting because there is something wrong with the other person? Like, say Sally ghosts people because she's scared of commitment, like she's the issue. And then Samantha is ghosting people because they're like alerting every single red flag she has. Like, what do you think the frequency of that is between the two of them?
I don't know. I'm willing to bet that most people don't have every one of their flags lit up like that. I don't. I think that people have such high expectations in a partner where they're looking for that level up, like you said, that they're looking for somebody that has the high paying job and can provide and do all those things, even though they don't want to admit it. I don't believe that people date for romance and companionship anymore. I believe that they date for a level up. And I'm seeing it in men too. To be fair, I'm seeing it across the board in the emails that we get and in some of the conversations that we've had. And that's a fucking problem in itself. I would think that it would be the red flag thing more than the person who's insecure, because I think the person who's insecure and doesn't want to go back on the date because of their own insecurities aren't going on the date in the first place. I think that those are the people who are going to put a whole lot of time into messaging and having conversations with people beforehand. If you're somebody who has social anxiety and you're more comfortable having a text message conversation, you're going to have a long time of text message conversations before you put yourself in a position to be uncomfortable in public. You're going to get to really know those people. You're going to stalk their pages. There's going to be a lot more involved in that. Whereas if you go on a date with somebody because you're confident in yourself and you find out dude's whatever or she's whatever, and it just doesn't mesh, I still don't see the need to not just tell somebody. Like, I feel like that lack of accountability on your part makes you a coward, because if you're like, I disagree with everything you just fucking said, this date's over, and leave, that's way better than ghosting someone. I would rather be offended and have my feelings hurt thinking about what went wrong. Or than thinking about what went wrong, because if somebody hurts my feelings, I know what I did wrong. I don't know.
I'm thinking of questions to ask you.
Okay. Have you ever ghosted anyone?
Have I ghosted anybody?
Yeah.
I don't remember. My late teens, early 20s, there's a very strong possibility I have, but I just don't remember any specific instances.
Right.
I used to be a very cowardice person.
I don't think that I've ever ghosted anyone in the traditional sense of blocking them on everything with no notice.
Yeah.
I would slowly just wean them out of my life. Right? And that could be a me thing. You know, with my borderline as a young man, splitting was very real. It's a lot different now than it was, but if somebody did something I didn't like, I would just stop reaching out to them. And if they reached out to me, I'd be cordial. But if they wanted to hang out, I wasn't fucking hanging out. Mm-hmm. And then eventually they would stop texting or stop calling because I wasn't interacting with them the way that they were trying to interact with me. People will eventually get the hint. But I've never just blocked somebody and changed my number and been like, fucking, I don't exist to you. Like, that just doesn't work for me. But in terms of having issues with somebody and not telling them what the issue is, I'm guilty of that. Mm-hmm. There are times where you have to choose conflict or non-conflict, and you really need to know when to pick your battles. And for me, I'm okay with confrontation. I'm okay with violence, and I'm okay with being in an uncomfortable situation, but I'm not okay wasting my time for somebody that I know is not going to change. So if I have somebody in my life that is a combative psychopath, and I know that no matter what I say, nothing's going to change the way they view things, I'm not going to have that argument. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to even get into the hows and the whys of shit. I'm just going to remove them and go about my life because my peace is not going to get disrupted that way.
Right.
So in that aspect, I have removed people without a dialogue as to why, or even a monologue.
I can't think of anything else to say on this topic.
Yeah. These side shows can be a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. They really can. It gives us side piece. It gives us a reason to sit down and have a conversation about things that we otherwise would not talk about. Mm-hmm. And we kind of killed two birds with one stone on this one because we are running out of topics, and we have a whole list of topics that Discord gave us, but it's hard to have a conversation about something unless something has triggered that thought process for me.
Right.
If we sat down and was like, let's talk about X, and there's been no lead up to that, I'm like, okay, what do you want to talk about? I don't know, you talk about it. Like, we're going to stare at each other until we have a thought. Mm-hmm. We can't do that for the podcast. We have to like sit down with pre-questions and like, I knew what I wanted to talk about with the gaslighting thing. I had nothing for ghosting. We managed to make something out of it, but
yeah.
I think that when people reach out to us and want us to talk about specific subjects, instead of like going, what is your opinion on cheating? They should give us a scenario that allows us to work through that scenario and then what if scenario the rest of it, because I think that would be more beneficial.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to see those kind of conversations, send us an email, tobebetterco@gmail.com. Side piece thought as the title.
That's a really good idea.
And then you can give us a scenario. Mm-hmm. And then we can, give us what you'd like us to call the episode even. If you have new original thoughts that we haven't recorded already, do that. And then give us the scenarios.
We need to go over the attachment styles.
I don't know anything about that. That's all you.
I got you.
I will totally sit here and look at your fine ass while you talk and yeah, sure. Yeah. I love that. Great. Good idea.
I'll even have my little notebook over here.
Yeah. Well, it's 2:00. We could do that today if you wanted to, or we can call it.
I don't have any of that ready.
Oh. So you're not really ready yet.
No, I'm just saying that that's something that we should do.
I didn't even know that was a thing until like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Got anything else? Mm-mm. All right, guys. So we're done with the topic. I do want to plug a couple of things real quick. We do have new merch coming. It will get released to Discord, Patreon first, and then it'll go live about 20 minutes after they've had an opportunity to buy. We've already designed the shirts. They're very dope. I'm super excited about it. And we are doing the 5 apology languages on YouTube every Thursday night at 7:00. The last 6 episodes we did on Thursdays were the 5 love languages. That's currently a playlist on YouTube if you would like to watch that. There's a lot of value in those. I'm very excited about the apology languages because I did not read the book. I allowed you to do all the work so that you can fuck me up while we're talking and I can get my face melted off with information that I would have otherwise not had. But we are going to continue that routine every Thursday night at 7:00 going live. Mm-hmm. We do about an hour of content from the books that we're reading, and then we do a Q&A. And we just kind of shoot the shit for another hour and a half after we're done. So for those of you who want to get involved in that, set a timer, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, or hit the notification bell so you get that notification. And if you haven't liked this video yet, you should. We will see you guys on the next one.
Bye, guys.